Mr. Jeff, thank you for joining with us and having, you know, we are list, we are having a great time for your presentation.
Well, thank you for inviting me and allowing MathWorks to sponsor your conference. We're really excited to be a part of this. It's been a great past few days, and so I'm thrilled to be able to present. I looked at the other folks that are presenting on this topic, and it's quite esteemed company. So I'm sort of humbled to be here. My role is a little different, I think, some of the other speakers today. So giving some context, I think, from an education technology vendor, I think is useful for this sort of conversation. You'll notice in the handful of slides I put together, I've included some QR codes that if you just take a screenshot, nothing you're going to see here is you could feel free to use and share amongst your faculty and other researchers you work with in education. But in this slide, I've got a code that will bring you to my bio, my interests, my projects, my research, my partnerships. And feel free to reach out to me and connect if you're interested in collaborating. That door is always open. And thank you for that warm introduction as well. So just to what I'm going to be focusing on today is some of the challenges and inherent in auto-grading programming code in science and engineering education, and specifically the solution for that, which is the auto-grading, the ability to programmatically determine whether students have mastered the learning objectives that you set out to teach them. I am going to be also presenting a relatively unique, narrow perspective on this topic. I work at a company called MathWorks. If you are teaching science and engineering to undergraduate and graduate students worldwide, you have probably heard of our product, even if you don't use it every day. MATLAB and Simulink are our two flagship products. I am the product manager. I use my market expertise, my research, my education background to lead the development efforts of MATLAB Grader, which is our auto-grading solution for MATLAB code. So this presentation is going to be very narrowly focused on that. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of what it does, how it solves those challenges that we're going to talk about earlier. And then I'll just show you some examples of how some of our customers and some other faculty, maybe even some of your colleagues that you know of in the industry have used the product. And then as on most of my slides, there'll be a link to for more information, but I'll leave you with something. If you like what you saw today, if you want to try it out, the product is free. If you already have access to MATLAB, if you already teach with MATLAB, you'll be able to get started. So I'm going to include some information about how to do that. So when we talk about the challenges of auto-grading, I think it's great. A lot of the folks on the panel today that are presenting are also trying to solve and doing research in these areas. So hopefully this sets the stage for more than just my presentation. But what we're trying to do is move from traditional auto-grading, where instructors, teaching assistants, graders review homework assignments submitted by students, in this case, programming code. And it takes them quite a long time to manually parse the code for syntax, to try to get the code to run again, to collect the files that are needed, to get the environment running, to actually replicate what the student work was. And by the time they actually get grades completed, the learners have moved on to the next assignment and are already working on the next learning objective. And if their work on the previous assignment was incorrect, or they were reinforcing bad behaviors or bad practices, they don't know to correct that before they move on to try to master the next objective. So the whole concept of prerequisite skills before moving on to the next skill is falling apart in this current sort of status quo we have for programming assignments. And then even if you do get feedback in the hands of the learners, there is no guarantee that they will read that and incorporate that into their learning for the next assignment. Auto-grading aims to solve that in a very simple way. It reduces that feedback loop down to real time, so that the system will make a determination as to whether the assignment was correctly submitted or not, provide instant feedback to the learner, encouraging them on how to maybe even correct their solution or what learning objectives they missed. And then they can use that feedback to improve, iterate on their solution, and learn the objective in front of them. That's it. It's elegantly simple. That's really what auto-grading is meant to solve for the learner. From an instructor perspective, the other thing that auto-grading is meant to, a good auto-grading solution will do for you, is not really require you to redesign or reinvent your solutions. A good auto-grading solution will allow you to take an existing assignment. In this case, on the left side, I've got a PDF, a document of a traditional assignment where you described, in this case, a mathematical convergence series, and the problem prompt is asking the student to compute this in MATLAB code in this example. And because it's a PDF handout, the student's going to have to go to their MATLAB environment, write the code by hand, and then submit the file. Or maybe on the back side of this sheet of paper, they're meant to handwrite programming code, which, as we know, is never really syntax correct, or even whatever compile or run if you were ever to run it. And so there's a lot of inherent issues with that. But a good auto grading solution will let you, as the instructional designer, take those same concepts, the prompt, the images, the equations, the helper functions, the data sets that you want to hand to students, and put that in an automated online web-based interface that students can access anytime, anywhere, complete their assignments online, and get real-time feedback all in the same interface. But for the instructional designer, I also don't want to minimize this. One of the big challenges for auto grading is the getting started investment you make for the conversion of your assignments. There's a lot of memes I've seen online of a programmer like, oh, I put a lot of investment into building this function to automate a task. And that's really initial sunk cost and effort. But the moment I complete that task to automate it, there is no more effort required on my part on the long term. And that's really the benefit, the long-term benefit of auto grading. The initial investment is sometimes sizable enough to scare people off from trying to attempt to start it. But I want to encourage people to actually do it. We did a research paper with one of our customer partners in Italy, where, and the citation is at the bottom of the slide, where they found there were 4 main reasons why an instructor or faculty may want to automatically grade code. And it's not necessarily what you might think of. It's not about just saving time grading. It's about reducing the burden on your staff so that they can focus on other aspects of the teaching and learning experience. If you are teaching a very large class, you want consistent grading and feedback and outcomes. Think about using a manual rubric to grade programming code. It's very cumbersome. You may not get it right in every case, and that code may not actually run or compile. So how do you ensure equivalent feedback to students for code that doesn't run fully, completely? So when you're teaching very large class sizes, you want that consistency, particularly when academic integrity is necessary, or you have policy for accreditation at the university that requires consistent grading. Student accessibility, being able to complete an assignment anywhere, anytime, any place, without having to be in a computer lab or have specialized hardware or software on their machines. Any web browser works really well. And continuous improvement, the ability to iterate on solutions, improve code, and resubmit until you get positive verification that your code is correct, matches the way that programmers work in industry. Submitting handwritten code on a piece of paper to submit a programming assignment, or even to submit code to an instructor that you don't know if it will run in their environment and be able to prove that you got the task correct, is not how engineers program in the real world. This continuous improvement verification model of design is what the industry uses, and an auto grading solution helps reinforce those industry best practices. And so that's important. So at MathWorks, we make MATLAB. MATLAB is the language of technical computing. If you were doing model-based design, numerical computation, the science of math anywhere in the world, you probably run into MATLAB. It is also a programming language. While we provide the development environment and programming language called MATLAB, the syntax of the language, using it to develop algorithms to solve real-world challenges, is the core of what it is. And so MATLAB Grader is our sort of first-party solution to solving that problem. And it meets those challenges. In fact, it's a research-based product. We have thousands of customers, probably 10,000 faculty right now that are using this product on an annual basis, and millions of students have submitted solutions for it. What is important about that is it's proven, we validate it, we're improving it constantly. I think a new version of this comes out every couple of weeks, but it's designed specifically to meet those challenges you saw before. And with the added bonus we're going to talk about a little bit, which is running it, the auto grading aspect of the learning within the learning environments you already use every day. We don't necessarily want you to have to learn another product or go to another place to teach your students programming. We want to embed within your existing learning environments. MATLAB Grader covers all of these features for both instructors and students. The entire workflow of creating the assessments, sharing them, collaborating on them in your university. So if you have multiple graders or teaching assistants that are collaborating on the curriculum development, you can involve them. It also supports continuous program evaluation for the faculty. So it's not just a product that tells you if the code is correct. It includes analytics and assessments of learning to find out if students are solving the programming assignment the way that you intended them to solve it, which is sometimes more important than just getting the right answer or mathematical value within tolerance. To know that the students built it algorithmically the way that you wanted is very key for auto grading of programming code. You can scaffold it, a solution for them. They can work against your scaffold to get to the design goal that you wanted. For the students, it allows them to have a real-time experience with MATLAB in a web browser where they can develop their solutions, get feedback in real time, or iterate on that, and then see other analytic tools. So even the students themselves can see how they're comparing against other cohorts. So if you have a very large class size, there's wonderful tools like a solution map where the students can see, anonymously, or you can open it up, who in the class is actually writing the most efficient code, so they can learn from each other. They can also compete. There's some elements of gamification. Auto grading is great because it gives you a very clear answer as to if your code is correct, and then how efficient it was, how long it took to compute. And so you can actually compare those results with other students to improve your solution further, not just get it correct, but go further, go beyond. And, that speaks a bit to the benefits of why you would do this. Instructional designers are creating authentic assessments. I use that phrase very specifically. As researchers in evaluation and assessment, we are always looking to try to better understand the role of authentic assessment, particularly for STEM education. And nothing is, when you're auto grading code, jumping out of the programming environment to grade is not authentic. Staying inside the programming environment, staying inside the IDE, staying inside the natural environment for the programming task itself and doing the evaluation there is authentic assessment. For instructors that are teaching very large courses, you need auto grading. If you are spending a lot of time with your teaching assistants and your graders on anything from practice to homework, exercises, formative assessment, summative assessment, or exams, if you're teaching a class that's larger than 30, 40 students, you're probably spending way too much time grading that you could be spending on office hours, that you could be spending doing interventions and more contact with students. So I have this little equation: less time spending grading code equals more time contacting students. And that's what we want. That's the real bottom line here for this product. And that students will get that immediate feedback while mastering specific MATLAB skills and concepts. I think what's also great about when you auto grade MATLAB code, different than other programming languages, is our auto grading solution lets you map to specific MATLAB functions and features, and you can validate whether they are mastering those products that are used in industry. Rather than like Python or C or Java, which are very generic, MATLAB has a lot of additional toolboxes that have fit for purpose tasks for industry. And so you can validate that you've trained the next generation of scientists and engineers properly on those tools. Okay, how can you use it? We talked about a little bit. There's going to be some investment of time to convert those existing assignments you have. Likely, if you are teaching a class today that you already use MATLAB in your instruction, you're probably going to want to use this product. If you're teaching programming, but you're not yet using MATLAB, you can use MATLAB to teach programming generically, and then you can introduce MATLAB Grader when you're ready to auto grade some assignments. It's also great to drop in additional practice exercises because you don't have to manually grade every individual item anymore. You can create large libraries of practice, iteration, examples for students that are auto graded, so they can get a lot more hands-on experience practicing skills, and you don't have to be there to grade every item. So if you've resisted the urge or the call to create 100 exercises just for practice because the burden of grading would be too high, this will help you with that. In-class coding, flipped classroom, other alternative teaching models, MATLAB Grader is great for that because you can give out the assignments. All the students can be solving them at the same time in the classroom. They can work individually or in groups. People can walk the room, be over the shoulder, or you can hold a Zoom meeting for online or hybrid instruction where people can then check in and say, hey, if I'm having a problem on line 10 of my solution, they can share their solution with you in real time. You can see their solution in real time. You can provide immediate additional feedback on top of the auto-graded feedback, and it makes that in-class experience so much richer. And then lastly, you know, there's a lot of student performance analytics, both for the individual student to see how they're performing, and then at the aggregate level to see how the student is performing against cohorts. We also have, and this came up in the workshop we gave a couple days ago at this conference. We have the ability to integrate with with plagiarism detection tools. So if you have an academic integrity issue, or you have policy to check for plagiarism of programming code, we can integrate very nicely with open source tools for checking plagiarism, and we can export all the real results there. And this product is doing these things today for a lot of people. And so it's probably more tried and true than other auto grading solutions, even for open source code in the market, just given the reach of our other products used in industry. You're not on your own. Knowing that there's a burden associated with creating new assessments. If you are teaching a concept like system dynamics or digital signal processing or numerical methods or electric circuits, anything like this, you can look through our library of existing example content and get some inspiration for how to use auto grading in those academic concepts. We got a question in the workshop on a couple days ago. It was like, hey, which disciplines does MATLAB Grader work in? All of them. You tell us how, if you teach with MATLAB and you can figure out how to teach MATLAB in your course or as part of your course, or teach an academic concept with MATLAB, you can use MATLAB Grader for that. We also, good news for your IT staff and learning technology specialists that support your university and your teaching. We are certified to work within your learning management system. You can actually, if as an instructor, you can go on the app stores for your LMS vendors. If you use Moodle, you can go to the Edu App Center and learn more about how our product integrates with Moodle. As an example, I know a lot of people that might be joining today's webinar, that might be your learning management system of choice. And so you can actually search and find MATLAB in your LMS and learn more about our product. You can always also go to our website to learn more. Just really quickly, don't take our word for it. There are a lot of other instructors and educators that are already using the product. Here is one, Virginia Tech in the United States. They actually use auto grading across an entire series of courses in aerospace engineering. And the links and the codes here go to our user stories. You can see how they actually implemented it. We also, MATLAB Grader is used worldwide. Tohoku University in Japan is using it in a digital signal processing course where they're doing self-paced learning and so on. And the last here, TUE in the Netherlands, you're going to see them using it, not just with MATLAB code, but they also integrate this with other teaching tools that MathWorks has. So it's sort of a combined learning content and assessment picture. And that's it. That's what I have for you. Feel free to take a screenshot of this page. If none of the rest, this will give you more information about the product and how to get started.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jeff. So it's nice to have a detailed presentation on this. And since many of us are, now instances we are all on LMS, so hopefully we can catch up with the latest updates on this platform, MATLAB. And if we have time later, after we complete the other presentations, we can also have some questions.
No problem. Thank
you. So now we have Dr. Shumit Angarji, Associate Professor, Lord's Institute of Engineering and Technology, as the next speaker. Dr. Shumit, can you hear me?
Yeah, sir, I can hear you. Your voice is audible.
Okay, so Dr. Shumit, I think we need to have a little adjustment in regarding the sound system in your end. So Dr. Sumit, he is the postgraduate coordinator and also associate professor at Lord's Institute of Engineering and Technology. And he had his Bachelor of Engineering in Mechanical Engineering and MTech from Computer Integrated Manufacturing from Visvesvaraya Technological University at, is it Belgium, Mr. Dr. Shumit?
Yeah.
Okay, so and then he in 2015 he had his PhD He started his PhD from Sri Shakti Sai University of Technology and Medical Sciences, Bhopal. So Dr. Sumit, he has almost 6.5 years experience in teaching, and we are happy to have you in many of your seminars and conferences and workshops. In this conference, you are welcome to enlighten us with your topic. And Dr. Sumit is going to present on his topic for today's presentation is assessing outcomes, skills, and competencies from principles to practices. Dr. Sumit, thank you for joining with us.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. Hope my voice is audible to all.
Now it's
So
perfect.
can I? Yeah, fine, sir. Thank you, Infobi, for giving me an opportunity as a speaker on this. I'm very excited to be here because it's my first international speaking. So obviously it will be very exciting for me. And shall I share the screen, sir?
Yeah, please, Dr. Sumit.
Okay. Let me.
Are you able to hear me, sir?
Could you please put it on a presentation mode? Yeah, it's perfect now.
Yeah,
Thank
is it okay
you.
now? You're fine.
It's perfect now. Thank you.
Thank you all. And yes, yes. So good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everybody across the world. So it's a good evening here in India. My name is Dr. Sumit Hangargi, and I'm associate professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering, working at Lhasa Institute of Engineering Technology Autonomous. Today, I'm very glad that I have a topic on assessment outcomes, skills, and competencies from principle to practices. So here we are going to see some outline on this, that is assessment outcomes, basic things of skills and competences, competency-based or outcome-based education, a principle of skills and competences, skills and competencies from principle to practice, and also a conclusion for that. So now we go for the first point, that's assessment outcomes. It is a process of collecting the information that will tell the college whether to have services, activities, or experiences it offers, or having a desired impact who partake in them. It's the main purpose of assessment outcomes to create the opportunities for the students to provide an information whether and how they have learned what we want them to learn. So it's also a collection of information. This is an assessment data in looking at the information to see what the students have learned or what we want them to learn. So also it's analyzing the information to draw the informed conclusion about what we have taught. So you can see here the assessment cycle on this, where we have a starting from plan and identify the outcomes, what we want actually. If you have a planning of doing something else in that, we need to collect the data of the particular thing. And also we need to analyze that as it is being shown in the diagram here. So after analyzing, we need to share the results to the particular thing, particular person, whether it is correct or whether it is wrong. So after that, we have to identify and implement some changes in that, obviously. So we have to go for assess impact of change. Then again, the cycle repeats, plan and identify outcomes and collecting the data. So this is what the assessment outcomes was, where the student has to learn and he should know about the things, what he's learning, and also he should know about the outcomes of that, what he's going through. So next, we'll see about the skills and competencies, basically a difference between skills and competencies. How being a competent is way more valuable than being skilled. If you look at both words, they're actually almost similar. Both can be used interchangeably. Both play an important role in career. However, in depth, if you go for application, competencies are considered more valuable than skills. How? A skill is the ability to do something. It can be anything like typing, coding, learning, etc. So it is something you have learned by yourself or without guidance or by joining a course. So in other hand, competency, if you talk about competency, it's a combination of skills, behavior, attitude, and knowledge, where competency help you to be successful at a job. Like example, you can take strategic planning, business reconstructing or planning, problem solving, or decision making, and etc. There's a cluster of skills. Being skilled at a particular job does not mean excellence. It just means you know how to do a task, but how well you do, it depends on many factors that comes under competencies. So as I said, competencies are not just a not just a skill, but a cluster of skills shacked up with a consistent behavior patterns and depth of knowledge. So hence, it is very important in today's competitive world. You need to be competent enough to stand out in the crowd. You would require a competent enough to a high-end task, and that too with a high excellence. So this is what the skills and competencies. So we are going to see the principle of skills in this. So here, before going to any principle of skills, we need to have a coaching for that, a training, a learning, a knowledge, a development, then it goes for success. So there is also a career reading resources where integrating a career readiness into the classroom, helping develop career competencies of non-traditional students, looking at the uncharted career frontier as one of the innovations at the right now of our student is career reading resources. A lot of institutes have hired today, which are performed in a college. They have started this in recent days, but we request other colleges also should take part about the career reading resources. We need to have a PPTs, we need to have a PDFs for the students, which makes them to understand in a very simple language. So here we have a principle of readiness exercise, primary, effect, recency, and intensity of freedom. Okay, sorry. Okay, yeah, we were okay. So in this readiness, we can see he or she should be fully prepared. We should have exercise on that, what they are, the students doing in the class. We should try to put our ability to bring about the result. And a primary should be education in the source for the students to come up and improve the skills. And recency, students should come the recent topics, which is helpful in the present need, which is very important right now in the present technological world. And it also intents and freedom where the students should enjoy their education and make sure they are grabbing the knowledge out of it. Okay, so skills are basically totally somewhat of different as compared to competencies, as I've explained you before. So if you go for the practice of the skills or based education, it doesn't matter what subject you teach, differences in students' performance are affected by how much they engage in deliberate practice. Researchers who have investigated expert and novice performance have uncovered important distinctions between the deliberate practice and other activities such as a play and a repetition. So deliberate practice is not the same as the rote of repetitions. Rote repetition, simply repeating a task, will not by itself improve performance. Deliberate practice improves attention, rehearsal, and repetition, and leads to deep knowledge of skills that can later be developed for more complex knowledge and skills. Although other factors such as intelligence and motivation and performance, practice is necessary. If not sufficient for acquiring experience, but also it is good for a student to have a better future in this. So deliberate practice occurs when an individual intentionally repeats an activity in order to improve the performance. The claim of the DP framework is that such behavior is necessary to achieve the high level of expert performance. So this is what the practice we have in a skills or outcome-based education. So if you talk about the competency-based education, there are a lot of principles in this, which is the learning objectives, learning standards, learning-based criterion, formative assessments, summative assessments, learning pathways, and personalized learning. See, all learning expectations are clearly, continuously communicated to students and families also. If you have some parent-teacher meeting in a college, including a long-term expectations such as a graduation requirement and graduation standards, etc. Short-term experiments such as the specific learning objective, of course, the learning and experience. So all forms of assessment are standard based on a criterion referenced, and success is defined by the achievement of expected standards. Okay. Summative assessments evaluate the learning achievement, and also summative assessments result record of students' level of competency. It's a basic at a specific point of time. So academic progress and achievements are mentioned, reported separately from work habits, also and behavior such as the attendance of a class, participation, which are also monitored or reported. Academic grades communicates learning progress and achievements to the students and families, and grades we use to facilitate and improve the learning process. Students are also given a multiple opportunities to improve their work when they fall to meet expected standards. Students can also demonstrate a learning progress and achievement multiple ways through oriented and effective assessments, personalized learning options, or alternative learning pathways. Students given the opportunities to make important decisions about the learning, which includes to the design of learning experience and learning pathways. So we have also the analytical creative thinking that should be with every faculty, and that should be with every student, which can complex questions in the particular studies where we are studying, and we should have some proper answers for that. There should also leadership and teamwork, digital and quantitative literacy, global perspective, adaptability, initiative, risk taking. Okay, so these are the principles, the basic principles of competency-based educations, which is interchangeable, somewhat different from a skills, but totally they are similar. So now the practice of CB, that is competency-based education, we have a communication, we have creative thinking, we have a critical thinking, we have social responsibility, we have a positive personal and cultural identity, personal awareness and responsibility. So in the communication, if you talk about, we need to explain or recount and reflect, which will connect and engage with the others. We acquire the interrupt and present the information, collaborate to plan, carry out and review. So the generating in a creative thinking, we generate the ideas, we develop the ideas, and we show that ideas to the students so that they can ensure that they get a proper answer by giving our idea. So in a critical thinking, we develop and design, we analyze and critique. The questions and investigation should also be there in that. There's also a social responsibility in which we are building a relationships with the proper persons who are relatable to our own perspective of education, contributing to the community and caring for the environment, solving the problems in a peaceful ways, valuing diversity. Okay, we have a positive personal and a cultural identity, which personal strength and abilities we have, and we should also give the strength to the students in a class when we go for teaching. A relationships and a cultural context, a personal value and choices. We have a personal awareness and responsibility. There's a well-being, self-determination, and self-regulation. These three are very important: the personal awareness and a responsibility. So students come to the classroom with the experience and the knowledge related to the core competencies, self-assessment, core competencies. Self-assessment allows students to develop the ability to describe the learning in relation to the core competencies. They'll set the goals and gain greater ownership for the learning when they have an opportunity to self-assess and describe who they are as a learners. Document their progress and share their accomplishments in an ongoing and a holistic manner. The emphasis on self-assessment in an ongoing promotes the personalization, inclusion, diversity, and student ownership of learning as it becomes a natural part of the learning process. Okay, with this, I come with the conclusion where the OBE is an educational theory that bases each part of an educational system by the outcomes. So by the end of the educational experience, each student should have achieved the proper things which they are trying to achieve before. They should have a clarity that the focus on outcomes create the clear expectations. They should have a clarity that focus on outcomes creates a clear expectations of what needs to be accomplished by the end of the course. Yeah, obviously. Students will understand what is expected of them, and teachers will know what they need to teach during the course. Clarity is important over the years of schooling, and team is teaching involved. We should also have a flexibility with a clear sense of what needs to be accomplished. Instructors will be able to structure the lessons around the students' needs. OB does not specify a specific method of the instruction, allowing instruction free teach the students using any method. So instructors will also be able to recognize the diversity among the students by using various teaching methods and assessment techniques during their classes. There should also be a comparison. If you talk about the conclusion, OB can compare across different institutions on individual levels. institution can look at what outcomes a student has achieved to decide what level of a student would be at within a new institution. On an institution level, institution can compare themselves by checking to see how outcomes they have in common and find places which they need improvement based on the achievement of outcomes at other institutions. So I thank with this the conclusion of outcome-based education. I thank all the speakers for giving me an opportunity, and thank our InfoB people too. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Shumit. Thank you, Dr. Shumit, for your nice presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Shumit, just regarding the the outcome-based education, how have you observed the contextualization of this, the outcome-based education in Indian context? Because we see, quite often the discussion about, the quality of education in different parts of India. Do you find that, OBE actually plays a role there with regard to, the south of India and then the eastern part of India, or, the other part of India? Does OBE have a role there?
Obviously, sir, the main thing in this right now in India, the faculty should take part in the involvement where students are involving, such as student involvement in the classroom is a key part of a OBE. Students are expected to do their own learning. In that, the faculty has to be in the classroom what they're doing. So they gain a full of understanding of our material in this student involvement allows students to feel responsible for their own learning, and they should learn more through the individual learning. This is what I tell you about the involvement and about the OBE. So in India, every faculty should and they will definitely take part into the involvement of the students, what they're participating in and how they're learning it. Is that okay, sir?
Yeah, I'm happy to have a answer from your perspective. So thank you for sharing your perspective in this
Thank
regard.
you, sir.
And now I would like to invite our next speaker, Dr. TV Gopal. Oh, Dr. Shunil is here, so I'm just wondering that if Dr. Shunil is ready to kick in or join in, then we can invite him to present next. Dr. Shunil, can we have you now for presenting your topic? Dr. Shunil, can you hear us? Dr. Shunil? I think we can. Okay, so Dr. TV Gopal, can you hear me?
Yes, I am online.
Thank you, sir. So it seems that we can start with the presentation, your presentation, and then in case Dr. Shunil is accessible, then we can also have his presentation in the end.
No problem.
So
I'm open for that. Yeah.
Professor TV Gopal, he is presenting today on scoping automation for evaluating interdisciplinary rubrics. Professor TV Gopal from Anna University, he is teaching computer science and engineering at CG campus, Anna University. One of his research area includes science and spirituality. Dr. TV Gopal has published a number of research papers, more than 80 till the date we count. And he has written 4 books and co-edited 10 conference proceedings. He has been actively involved in many professional societies, including IEEE, ACM India, IFIP, WG 9.2, CSI, and ICANN. Dr. TV Gopal, we are very happy to have you among us for this presentation. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank
Could
you
please
very
put your
much.
slides on presentation mode.
Yes,
Slides
I'll
on
do
present.
that.
Okay.
Slideshow is visible, I hope, and I'm audible. Thank you very much. I thank IN4 OBE and the couple of speakers before me who have elucidated on the core concerns in automating any evaluation. The second speaker was so nice in bringing out the OBE concerns which we have in Indian context, subtle though. My presentation is very clear. How do we scope automation when evaluating interdisciplinary rubrics? So this is where I wish to emphasize that interdisciplinarity is the watchword, and we need to think of multiple experts joining in to evaluate what is called a simple rubric that is being produced. An engineer eventually exists, leaving behind a rubric that lives. Everything that an engineer does, I teach computer science and engineering in the Anna University College of Engineering Guindy campus, which is now turning 227 years old. It began as a practice school. So the idea of rubric is not new. It's very old, and most of us who have been talking about practice of engineering do say the same. An engineer eventually exists, leaving behind a rubric that lives. So there is something that is always constantly subject to evaluation. Right now, it is an evaluation which is leading to an assessment based on certain stated outcomes. As my predecessor speaker has mentioned about what is the status of OBE, very nicely presented. I'm not going to spend time on that. In the beginning, there were no examination. The rubric speaks for itself. It tells what it is doing, and then we evaluate, we assess. Each time we come across it, we have an opinion on that. Examinations have seldom been native to any education system, whether it is Oriental or Western. The traditions eschewed the ideology of examinations because we want the outcome, the thing to speak for itself. And once a set of things speak for themselves, based on the referrals, based on recommendations, things happen, things move. It was China that has begun the exercise of administering difficult examinations for entry into civil services, because we are impacting the life, the civilians, the civil sector. And all people need not be engineers. The essence of interdisciplinarity is that I know a little bit of what that rubric is doing. I do not know how several such domains get together to make the rubric happen. So we don't have an integrated, we don't have a holistic view most of the times, but we know that different experts will have to come together to see whether it is doing the same thing and is impacting quality of service, quality of life, and now the quality of experience. To help students through these examinations, academies were created, which became gradually university. So we are talking about essentially a university system which is looking at a program specific. That's where I was with for the NBA 2012 to 2014. Even though my experience began with the NBA in 2008, the current chairman NBA, KK Agarwal, has been known to me for quite some years and is one of the speakers in the same summit, IN4 OBE. Must thank him for all those nice illuminating discussions several decades back. Since 2008, I have been associated with this OBE, and universities gradually need to make those rubrics happen and speak for themselves. How do we make it happen is a big challenge. That's the essence of OBE, and we have to still find a method of first showing out some outcomes, stating some outcomes, which are not deliverables, but they're outcomes, and making some rubrics based on those outcomes. A set of chosen outcomes, a rubric should be there, interdisciplinarity. That's a vision plan for about 5 to 7 years now. The examination system emerged as a viable alternative. Can we really go through this typical examination system right now? We can have automated evaluation of essay answers. Why only multiple choice? I've been associated with our entrance examinations when they were talking about scanners, multiple choice examination, going through a scanner. In a Ziffy, the answer script is evaluated. All 100 questions have been ticked off, marked off as multiple choice, A, B, C, D. And in a Ziffy, 100 questions are evaluated. A lack of students who take, lakh and a half of students have their results posted in a Ziffy. That's one automated evaluation. Essay writing, we piloted. We tried to get through the scanner, see what best can be done, but still in a very, very native and infant stage. So we are talking about the next step. Outcomes as not exactly deliverables. The next step, rubrics. Next step, interdisciplinary rubrics. So the past few decades, students have been dreading, disliking, and even testing examinations. Just a couple of questions given below. Is it a good testing scheme? Is it a good education scheme? In summary, are we really evaluating quote unquote engineering graduates for that point to shine? An engineer eventually exists, leaving behind a rubric that lives. So we are talking about program specific, outcome based education, rubrics, and interdisciplinary. That's the focus of my talk. After doing all this, I end up with these simple set of slides to share, opening up for debate, opening up for controversies. I don't mind, but that's how it is. If I do this test with one eye closed, one hand tied behind my back, and hopping on one foot, do I get an A for an effort? Fieldwork. Engineering is all about fieldwork. Are we assessing the difficulty? Writing a square root program in my office doesn't have the same complexity as writing a square root program sitting in the palm tree in Rajasthan. That's the Thar Desert, or in Antarctica. The program is the same 10 lines, the same MATLAB may be used. My good friend, co-speaker Jeff Alderson speaking about it, can be used, but they're not the same complexity. So how do we ensure that a rubric reflects the context? A nice point which our moderator pointed out. How do we contextualize the rubric? So we keep on telling the same, that the way we should approach a rubric, interdisciplinary rubric, is a different type of questions. Unlike the essay writing, 2 mark, 10 mark, 20 mark, 16 mark questions, where hopefully Bloom's taxonomy comes in handy. And as the question paper setter, later slide will show, he or she will mark out some idea about what is the intentionality in asking that question. Is it knowledge, understanding, as per the Bloom's taxonomy? In a limited manner, we understand the complexity of the question paper, and therefore we are able to say that automated evaluation of essay writing, essay questions can plausibly indicate a correct grading. Anyway, that's a bigger question. I'm not focusing on that. Limited time. Let me focus on what I began with. Questions for clarification. Multiple experts will be there. Each experts need to understand what is the other experts' position or how they are coming together. There will be questions for clarification. There will be questions that probe assumptions, questions that probe reasons and evidence, questions about viewpoints and perspectives, questions that probe implications and consequences, questions about questions, same questions. These will be the set of types of questions which in my opinion, will be asked. An abstract, high-level, 6 set of questions will be asked given any rubric or interdisciplinary rubric. So typical question papers, therefore, will have open questions, closed questions. You can send it for writing, written. They can answer the questions. We can do it online. Probing questions. Last 2-3 years, I've had a wonderful experience of doing things online. Hypothetical questions, reflective questions, leading questions. So this is how we have the types of questions explained. They are, in my humble opinion, a maturity level of at least 2 levels above the Bloom's taxonomy efforts. Bloom's taxonomy allows us to do. They are factual, convergent, divergent, evaluative, and combinations, multiple combinations. So the way we are addressing is now formalized as 6 types of questions, 7 varieties into which they can be casted, and above all a category, convergent, divergent, evaluative combinations that make the interdisciplinarity abstracted in types of the way we ask questions to the people who develop the rubrics, whether it is interdisciplinary or set of outcomes. They're not really deliverables, but they are outcomes. So this is how we talk about the complexity of approaching it, how we have approached the score, the question paper evaluator. It cannot be, the outcome of an automated assessment cannot be independent of the quality of the questions. Therefore, we have abstracted the people, the domain experts, the nature of interdisciplinarity, the nature of the context, all into a simple flowchart like this. Students are there, question paper, teacher, everything put together. It's an automated evaluated system. Just like the Bloom's taxonomy allows us to categorize the questions, we are now talking about types of of questions, 7 types, and then 4 categories. The question paper complexity, the answers given, the rubric, everything will be scored and graded. This is automatable. Automatable even now. We can even automate this. However, we need a recommendation system. Later on, I will tell that referral systems, first generation, second generation, third generation, knowledge-based, content-based. I'll give you one simple example of this. There's a rubric. This I'm not willing to spend time on it. Last 2-3 years, I have been associated with a national level competition organized by Foundation for Advancement of Education and Research. It's a good experience for me. Now, where is the referral system coming? We have a mentor. We have gone through the exercise remotely. The one that made me most happiest is the recent one. Just a few weeks back, we completed the evaluation that won a special prize in a national competition. These people were far away from Delhi. I was sitting in Chennai. Only exercise that is possible is meet online. Keep on talking online. I'm very lucky that FAIR has nominated me as a mentor for this institution, and it has won a special prize. Actually, we fielded this for competition last year. Now, last year it has gone in some way. We pleaded, we made the jury consider our request to make it happen the next year. We won a special prize. Code evaluation, it was so nice listening to the MATLAB presentation. We can evaluate the code automatically before the 1 week passes, before they go to the next. Circuit analyzers are there. But the simple question in interdisciplinarity is, can we all capture that in mathematical abstract? We cannot. Therefore, the types of questions, the category of questions, the essence of my talk has already been presented. It is doable, it is feasible with a set of outcomes, with a set of rubrics, and interdisciplinarity is addressable in an automated assessment model. We could do our own assessment before fielding it for the competition. So the referral system is very, very essential. Even after that, we could have lost a very good project, very good idea set of 2 students and 1 teacher really slogging it out. And we are very, very thankful to FAIR for giving us this experience. Earlier, in an earlier edition, we won a 2nd prize, all online. It was a very great experience. Out of half a dozen projects, 2 of them won a prize. It's possible we can make an evaluation system ourselves. So we have a very wide range for a 10-point. One is got the answer correct, used correct formula, but made mathematics error. Sort of knew what to do, but used wrong formula. Obviously had no clue, but gave it the old college try. Left it blank, complete nonsense. Forgot to put their name on the test. Spelling, grammar error. So we have 8 different categories of commonly experienced works, and I strongly think that economy is affecting the grades. We need to understand that people need to have a broader perspective and an outlook on the rubrics and there's phenomenal talent pool. We can sit down in the office and do this exercise, automated assessment. So without much ado, technical, logistical, we understand. Laboratory operations, maintain safe practices, develop. This is a part of the training. Therefore, we need a local contact. We need a SPOC to manage this. It's not fully automated in that sense. They will have to dress appropriately. They have to use proper use, maintenance of equipment. It's a practice school exercise. I'm not going to cover the other things. Rubric, we understand, a standard of performance for a defined population. In many cases, scoring rubrics are used to delineate consistent criteria for grading. That's exactly the attempt. What is the attempt here? Automated scoring rubrics. The rubric has built-in way of assessment, a formative assessment. Rubric provides a grader with standards based upon a degree. We need to evolve those standards based on the category of questions. Open-ended questions, presentations, discussions, reference papers coming in, debates, arguments, all of them will happen. But it's technically feasible by categorizing the questions that will eventually score marks. All discussions are there. Rubrics can take a variety of form, nothing more than a scorecard, break down the assignment. No matter how fantastic a student may be in one element, it can only affect the overall grade by so much. So my interdisciplinarity has a way of evening out, which we should prepare them. Great advantages, it provides benchmarks. We can be anywhere, any number of people can happen, different expertise can come. Particularly last few years, we have been seeing plenty of projects on the health information devices. So this is the way in which I have been trying to project the way a cause and effect method can have an achieving outcome, a fishbone diagram, which tells me the work breakdown structure automatically. Automatically, I will know the work breakdown structure. The student is there, the faculty is there. Let's replace the term student by a learner. They can be anywhere. The mode of education can be anything. The rubric is passing. If there is competency demonstrated, as my earlier speaker was nicely pointing out, if the competencies are demonstrated, we should be able to prove. We should be able to get that skill in. That's the overall idea. And I wish to tell that with limited scale, limited resources, we were able to show, I was able to have a first-hand experience on categorizing the questions to address interdisciplinarity, evaluate rubrics that come out. Just like that, with a little bit of a local contact, little bit of technology support, and we have all these concerns, a fishbone diagram that tells that there's a learner, there's a faculty, there's a course, there's a survey, the direct and indirect assessments, which are typically a part of an accreditation scheme, are more structured in a fishbone diagram, and we have a work breakdown structure that tells that teams can be anywhere. Partly adapted from the way we are talking about computer-supported collaborative work. It is very, 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 very feasible even now. The 6 types of assessment methods, tests and examinations, measures of attitudes and perceptions, portfolios, performance appraisals and simulation, behavioral observation, external examiner, all these things can be covered. The way we talk about assessment methods, it's an automated methodology. It works. Right now, we don't have a tool for that, which is as elaborate as a CSCW, but there are platforms. There are academic platforms on which this can be trialed out. Hopefully, Anna University has 500 colleges. We are already making, our Vice Chancellor has already been telling that we'll have a complete connectivity and we can do all these exercises wherever the expertise is. They can chip in. We have seen on Zoom rooms in the last 2-3 years, fantastic expertise coming in, sharing very insightful ideas. It was a wonderful experience. Sweet are the users of adversity is what we keep telling. Sad that it was COVID-19 times when we were able to taste this weakness, but I hope it continues. We keep meeting often to discuss critical concerns in a social system. So behavioral observation, external examiner, all these are possible. So these are the various stages. All of us who have been in this panel, 4 or 5 speakers, I'm sure we have tried out manual operations to do this. Semi-automated, fully automated. We are still at the semi-automated stage. That is what is giving us good enough satisfaction that we have done. We have interacted with the students, gave them a feel for what they are doing. And therefore, we have been telling that it's just the case of path 2. We are doing a lot of developments on path 2 as the time progresses. However, the highly automated solution for this kind of assessment, where we are talking about a MOOC course, 3 lakhs of people, we need a highly automated solution. Manual is next to impossible. I did two MOOC courses I developed. One for operating systems, second one for OAD. In both cases, suddenly the number of people who want to do the course increases. Then what do? Manual operations are simply not there. We have to talk about semi-automated. So we are really looking at path 2, and I'm still at path 2A, trying to move from manual operations to semi-automated. The goal is highly automated, very highly automated. So we are still in path A, and my experience in all these cases, in-person, first-hand experience is path 2A. Introduce automation, catering for existing process. I conducted 2 laboratory courses, 2 MOOC courses, and my opinion is that little bit of interdisciplinarity, not so much, but it's a rubric. It's not an interdisciplinary rubric as yet, but it's a scoring rubric. Types of questions as outlined, the categories of questions as outlined. Then we will have automation of testing. We need to scope it well. Right now, I'm at path 2A. Path 2B, yes, it is possible. Feasibility exists. So came across several tools. Fortunately, I'm in a very leading institution. And we are showing about 1.5 lakh graduates coming out of the institution every academic year. So it's a huge scope. MATLAB is very much used for simulations. It's just the case of a demand on mathematical abstraction, which are proven to be elusive in this kind of an approach. Particularly at the students level, representation remains a #1 bugbear. They are not adept at doing so much of interdisciplinary mathematics as well. So we have been talking about some approaches based on software engineering tools. So assessment types, automatic assessments, programming assessments. We have had a first-hand experience of a coding tool. Anyhow, we had our first speaker sharing similar experience. It was a nice presentation. Thank you very much. Both my speakers, both the speakers who spoke before me have eased out my presentation in a nice manner. Integration with learning platforms. That is the concern now. They should be able to refer online. We are not able to have an integration to the learning platforms, online content. If you simply tell, we are not questioning on the terminology, but it's like that. Open source, plenty of open source tools. The tool which I used is an open source tool. It works well. Not much of support on open source tools. We are not able to get support. Single programming language, 2 or more programming languages. It's good. It's good to see this much of automation, and hopefully we will have an integrated way of addressing the interdisciplinary rubrics. Somebody, you're a student, the team composition is also interdisciplinary. So we should move in a manner where there should be access to learning platforms. We should be able to click on something and say that what is it that that discipline is talking, and that language cannot be for an expert, it should be for a learner. So these are certain challenges which I have faced, and as I said, permit me to go back. I'm on path to A, introducing automation. Right now, this appears to be feasible, semi-automated. Is my time up, or I still have some more time?
Yeah, Professor, though it's quite an exciting presentation and topic, but we have some time constraint.
Thank you so much.
So thank you
Thanks.
for actually sharing such an interesting, not only it's a presentation on a topic, it's actually sharing the insight. So we are very grateful that you are sharing, such an resourceful insight. Now we have, our Professor Dr. Sunil Vijay Kumar Gaddam. Dr. Sunil,
Sir, good evening. Sir.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, yes, I'm able to hear you, sir. Hello.
Please, sir.
Sir.
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Yes, yes, sir. Shall I start the presentation, sir?
Sir, I'm just introducing you, then hopefully, sir. So today, sir, can you
Actually,
just? Yes,
sir, actually, my laptop is not working properly for audio. That's why I'm on mobile. Is it okay?
Oh, it's quite okay. So do you have any PowerPoint slides for the presentation?
Yeah, PowerPoint. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so could you please just share it in this Zoom, screen, so that we can see
Yes, sir.
whether before you start the presentation whether it works
Yes, sir.
right.
Are you able to see this, sir?
Yes, sir. Could you please put it in a presentation mode? I think then you just have to rotate it, and then it will come in a presentation mode, sir. Yeah. Can you do the the rotation feature on your mobile phone?
My
because-
slide is it changed?
Yeah.
Changing,
In
sir?
this way, it will not be a full screen presentation. It will be just 1/3 of the
Okay.
screen. But if you
Acha, acha, acha.
put your mobile in a rotation mode, then it will come as a full screen presentation. And
Okay,
also
okay.
you will be also visible there. I mean, yeah, on the top, there is on the top, sir. On the top,
On the
in the
top?
display. Yeah, on your mobile. Just if you slide your finger down on the top of the mobile, if you slide the finger, you will see a rotation feature there.
Rotation.
Yeah, the way we put the mobile on silent mode, or on the ringing mode by just sliding the finger on the top of the. Can you see that, there is like, the time? Yeah.
Sir, on the top, there is a Zoom is there.
No, not Zoom,
Uh,
sir. Just your
uh,
mobile phone when you use the time. So for our last topic and the next topic, Dr. Shunil V.K. Gaddam, he is presenting on the power of automation in assessment and evaluation, its benefits and the challenges. Dr. Shunil Vijay Kumar Gaddam is a professor of Department of Computer Science and Engineering at Lord's Institute of Engineering and Technology, Hyderabad, Telangana State. Before he worked as a professor and principal at Global College of Engineering and Technology, Kadapa, Andhra Pradesh, which is actually a state of India. He also worked in many esteemed engineering colleges as a professor, head of department, dean, director. He has completed his bachelor's degree from KSRM College of Engineering. In year 1993, his post-graduation in computer science and engineering from IPGSR and Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, Hyderabad. And then his master's MTech from computer science and technology from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He has done his PhD in 2012 from Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. He has supervised several PhD scholars, and he has supervised more than 80 masters in technology projects. He has reviewed many international journals, has organized 38 international and national conferences. He has published 19 papers in peer-reviewed international journals, authored 1 book and 3 edited books. Edited 3 books. He has published 43 papers in international conference and national conferences. Professor Shunil Shunil V.K. Gaddam. Okay.
Opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm Dr. Sunil Vijay Kumar Gaddam, a professor of CSE and allied branches. I'm dean for the CSE and allied branches, sir, in Lord's Institute of Engineering and Technology, Hyderabad. And today, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak about this topic on power of automation in assessment and evaluation, its benefits and challenges. Quickly, I'll go through, sir, because time is very. So assessment and evaluation play a crucial role in a higher education rather than education in general. These are essential components of education for providing feedback for betterment of teaching practices and the learning outcomes. Though the feedback gaps and deficiencies in the current curricula and practices for delivery are revealed so that attempts can be made for improved and updated curricula and for better and more effective delivery of learning by removing these gaps, etc., and by introducing better ones. The recursive process of continual assessment and evaluation followed by improving of curricula and practices leads to the faculty and the students remaining academically sound and updated, intellectually vibrant, and also industry ready. Followed sincerely, diligently, and intelligently, habit of regular assessment process develops institution-wide culture and zeal for perfection. And an appropriate assessment is an indicator of success of teaching and learning. In finer details, qualitative assessment, first of all, requires the concerned faculty to be highly knowledgeable about state-of-art techniques, tools, and approaches relevant to the discipline, along with its fundamental and theoretical aspects. Further, assessment should cover the whole syllabus and should not be based on mere rote learning. It should be aimed at evaluating learners' capability to think deeply and to innovate. Wherever possible, assessment should take into consideration issues relevant to long-term educational goals, including those having implications for the society. Second, and let's talk about the significance again. The technology development witnessed over previous decades provide powerful tools and techniques for effective assessment, incorporating the quality mentioned in the previous earlier what I have talked about. The technology-based assessment called e-assessment or automated assessment and evaluation has added a new perspective and dimensions towards the diversified formats for assessment. And let us talk about the e-assessment. Like many other concepts, including e-learning, e-science, e-research, etc., e-assessment is evolving, and for each of them, a number of other terms having exactly or nearly same meaning are in use in literature. For example, e-assessment, the various terms used, including computer-based assessment, computer-based testing, computer-aided assessments, and so on. Many we can see in the e-assessment relevant terminology. The term e-assessment is used for a type of electronic evaluation that relies on the computer or any other technological devices in order to conduct all the processes of assessment, moving from the presentation of the assignments till the recording of a student's answers for the summative or formative objectives. It enables educators, trainers, and authors to schedule, deliver, and to report on surveys, quizzes, tests, and examination. Elaborating further, e-assessment uses information communication technology tools in assessing and evaluating the performance. In ICT-based evaluation, students' assignments, answers, scores, and feedbacks are elaborated, distributed, recorded, corrected, and analyzed. These assignments, etc., can be stored via digital devices, including computers, mobile phones, tablets, and so on. The ICT-based techniques, among other tasks for assessment, are also employed for submitting an assignment online, for performing online quizzes, both of which can be either automatically computer marked or maybe human marked. Further, these techniques are used for assessing an e-portfolio or a blog, and for giving audio feedback recordable by the computer. In the next slide, I'm giving you the graphical representation of e-assessment process. This is the e-assessment process that you can see on the screen, or e-assessment cycle, we can say. Let me explain quickly about this. This is the e-assessment process, and let me quickly explain about this. According to the flowchart of the e-assessment process, motivation is the starting point in e-assessment cycle. Then come the design phase and the elaboration phase of the assessment. Before mentioning the remaining phases of assignment, it is important to note the feedback loops or arrows. These arrows indicate after each new phase, the earlier phase need to be revised or re-evaluated in the light of a feedback from the later phase. Design and evaluation are followed by students, testing, and delivery phases of the assessment. Next phases are data processing and the provision of feedback, respectively. Finally, the cycle ends up when the students evaluate the outcomes and review of the feedback. E-assessment process, still we can explain about this. E-assessment process quite resembles an ordinary assessment. The diagram shows, the cycle shows, it resembles like an ordinary assessment only, but it appears to be only a copy of the paper, pen, pencil assessment. However, a part of many other aspects, major advantages of e-assessment include a capability to evaluate thousands of students at electronic speed, and of conducting tests in distributed manner at places of convenience of the students. The advantages of e-assessment, let us discuss here very quickly the advantages of e-assessment. Advantages. Universities and institutions have adopted e-assessment in order to develop accurate, faster method to assess students rather than traditional measures. The advantage in 4 domains: students, institution, and whereas in education aids. Let us discuss about them, each one of them. In student, the prefers because they can friendly interface, games, simulations, simple learning environment, and recreational activities. It's also fast and easy to use. Immediate feedback comparing with a paper test, which helps to improve the learning level since it increases the students' motivation and improve their performance. Furthermore, it helps the students in remote area to learn and assess in their local locations, and it can take it anytime, which provide flexibility for students to have the exams. So these are in students' perspective. Let us see teachers' side. The paper test consumes time from teacher to correct each paper, but using e-assessment will save the teacher's time. E-assessment helps the teacher to improve the quality of feedback for the students. Third one is e-assessment enables the teacher to track the students' performance and make analysis across many assessments. And next one is the direct feedback from e-assessment allows the teacher to find misconceptions which are not clear for the students and to solve it. And finally, the e-assessment reduces teachers' burden. The demand for fast and accurate method for assessment. Also, an institution or university need a timely result to arrange for places for appropriate qualified applicants. This can accurate easily using e-assessment. Moreover, using e-assessment decreases the cost of institution to assess a student as the time is reduced. Furthermore, e-assessment has its own set of security, which provides the questions and enable to student to copy the questions also. It includes checking identifications and the password verification to ensure the student's identity. It assists to reduce student cheating by providing a different question in a different order. So this is for us. And finally, we can see the advantages of e-assessment at educational aims side. E-assessment supports educational goals by supporting high-order thinking skills such as critiquing, reflection on cognitive processes, and facilitate group work projects. Also, it supports a new educational goals that focused on problem solving using mathematics, science supported by information technology. For instance, understanding the presenting the problem, especially in mathematical scientific literacy. E-assessment has the ability to sort questions which cannot create it using the paper test. For example, software simulation, and it helps to represent information in a simpler and a faster way. Moreover, it provides more accurate results than paper test. So these are the major advantages of e-assessment. Of course, it has got its own disadvantages also. And quickly, let us see the 1 or 2 points of disadvantages of e-assessment. It fails to assess highly cognitive reflective abilities such as critical thinking. Instead, it measures the student's memory and surface knowledge, since it is generally associated in literature with closed-ended questions. It's difficult to use by learners in non-technical disciplines and for instructors who need a certain knowledge about the ICTs. And it's the implementation at the level of institution, especially with more sophisticated hardware and software tools, which means it's not cost effective. The other logistic difficulties related to the implementation, such as the inability to provide individual computers for each student, particularly when the assessment is based on a large scale. The non-robust of certain e-assessment software can lead to the complete failure of the entire task or examination. As far as the social interactions generated by e-assessment tools are concerned, sometimes it leads to isolation, what they called social exclusion within web-based tools and social networking sites. These are some of the disadvantages of e-assessment. Let us see some of the major challenges which can talk about quickly in 2-3 minutes. I'll conclude, sir. Implementation of e-assessment in a higher education could face some challenges. Number one, digital training. Students need a training at the beginning to be familiar with the e-assessment. Until and unless they are trained, they may not be able to attempt this. Next one is accessibility of computer and internet. As a solution, let's see. So for us, we need to have a large excellent infrastructure and as well as internet facility also. A solution for this problem, the university should provide a lab with the fully equipped with the internet access for the students. And third challenge is providing adequate infrastructure in economically backward and underdeveloped countries. Here, the government should take a full responsibility in providing fully equipped digital infrastructure to set up and run e-assessment system. And fourth one is assessing dynamically. There is a difficulty in scoring and correcting questions with a student open response, such as explaining and describing things. So it is more useful for multiple choices, and these are things. But for explanations, maybe we need to take extra sophisticated software we need by using artificial intelligence and so on. Assessing the group projects also would be difficult in this case. Of course, some of the softwares have come in assessing projects also, because there we need to monitor the student. So his capabilities and his involvement, his interests and his everything we need to. So there, computer-based would be very difficult. And let me conclude this presentation. The presentation here, we have discussed about the importance of assessment and e-assessment, and points to the benefits and obstacles of using e-assessment in e-learning from different domains, such as a student, a teacher, institution, and educational aims. Those things we have seen. And the main advantages also we have seen, and providing direct and immediate feedback for the student, improving student time and teacher, also decreasing the cost for the institution, and finally, the encouraging higher order thinking, which is one of the educational aims. Also, we have discussed a few disadvantages also we have seen. Those are, but the advantages outweigh the, say, provided if we are able to provide an excellent infrastructure and internet facility. And finally, the e-assessment faced some challenges, such as poor technical infrastructure and unfamiliar student with a computer. So these are the things that we can talk about here. And in this automated assessment and evaluation. So
Thank you, Dr.
any
Sunil.
questions from the
Thank-
audience?
Thank you, Dr. Sunil. Thank you for completing
Any questions, sir?
joining the session in spite of having technical problems. You have
Yes, sir.
actually
Yes, sir.
managed to come back and deliver on this topic. So
Yes,
that's
yes.
very kind of you. And I'm also
Thank you,
highly
sir. Actually, I
appreciating.
was able to hear
Dr.
you,
Sh-
sir, but my voice was not reaching you. Actually.
Yes, we completely understand that it was something that was out of control in your end, but
Sir,
we are
sir.
very happy that we have got you back and you have
Sir.
delivered on your topic. Dr. Sumit Hangarji, we are also very happy that you have stayed back in the end of this presentation. Dr. TV Gopal, it has been a very passionate participation from your part. We are quite grateful to all of you that you have made this presentation successful. So thank you all. We know that we are actually beyond our time limit. So I'm very happy to
Sir.
Dr. and appreciating Mr. Taimur Ali that you have managed to actually continue the session beyond its time limit. So thank you for making that possible. And I think we need to, close the session right away. So thank you all for again making it a success. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me provision to present it. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.